Chapter 9. 6 years before the THRAN War. A week after the riots, the city that had been shattered now gathered. Citizens climbed to the 8th terrace and overran Council Boulevard. They filled the stairs on every side of the council hall and swarmed the rooftop, the dome, and the half-completed temple. Everyone knew who had stopped the riots. Everyone wanted to be as close as possible to the city's savior. This was his day of ascension. Today, the council seat vacated by the ailing Glacian would be filled by the city's new genius, the healer Yawgmoth. The parade of elders strode down Council Boulevard. Polite applause ushered them forward. Then Yawgmoth appeared. This man was greeted with invocations, supplications, adorations. He was greeted as a god. The ravaged core of the Halcite Guard could barely hold the people back. Guards made offense of their leveled pole arms and shoved against the pressing multitude. The mob disdained those weapons, the useless things that had been unable to stop the rioting untouchables. What kept the crowd back was not pole arms but swords, the 5 blades that hung from Yawgmoth's belt as he strode up the street. Those weapons in the hands of Yawgmoth and his brave healer soldiers had saved the city. Swords and Yawgmoth's new type of healing. Rebek waited within the council hall. She had marched among the other leaders and had taken her seat within. Though outwardly composed, inwardly she was besieged. Every base impulse, every lower desire welled up in her at the simple sight of him. Her heart beat with impenetrable want. Her lungs struggled to taste a breath of him. Her arms ached to enfold him, her fingers to twine through his hair. Where could this rebel ache come from? Why had it risen just when there was a treatment for her husband's illness? Rebek had told herself it was all merely overwrought gratitude for that saving cure, but she knew these wants were less pure. The cure. While Glacian had wasted away, Rebek could not have abandoned him. If he became whole again. But what was all this absurdity? No, Rebek would never leave her husband, ill or well. She had made a vow, and a vow was not to be broken, even for the right reasons. This carnal liberation could not be right. Yawgmoth roused the lower impulses of the whole city. She had to resist him, they all had to. Yawgmoth entered the council hall. He progressed among standing and cheering elders. Rebek stood, weak-kneed. Yawgmoth seemed to emit an enervating aura. He strode with stately decorum down the aisle and rose up the steps of the main podium. The swords at his belt clacked against polished wood and left little scars. His ceremonial robes draped across each step. Around his neck, he wore a power stone stole that would send his voice out to the whole throng. He spoke. His voice rolled out, silencing the throng. 1 week ago, our city was inundated. It was flooded by its past. The folk who overran our streets and burned our homes and killed our brothers and daughters, these were not creatures from some far-off world. They were THRAN. They were who we all were 1,000 years ago. We, like they, lived in brutal darkness. We were ravaged by hunger and want, by mortal terror and disease, by violence and warfare. In 1,000 years, we have slowly won free of these things. We have ascended. A week ago, the folk below ascended too. They climbed up from dark want, hunger, and depravity to enter our city. They came most of all because of the disease that ravages them. The very phthisis that has laid low our Glacian runs rampant through the caves. They crawled up their ratways into our midst. They had nothing, not even health, not even hope. They came, hating us for all we have, for ascending. They would have killed us all. What of the Halcite Guard, that atrophied appendage that once was the proud arm of Halcyon? What of the fighting force that wrested this land from the dwarves and elves and goblins that infested it? Centuries of peace in our city have softened them so that they could not even stand against the sickly and starved rabble beneath our feet. Were the matter left to them, the damned would have damned us all. But one weapon saved us. Yawgmoth paused and reached into his cloak. The elders leaned just perceptibly forward, straining to glimpse the now famous sword Yawgmoth had wielded in battle, but he did not hold up a blade. Instead, he lifted a vial of liquid hope. This is our greatest weapon against the terrors of the past. Hope is what brought us out of darkness and hunger, violence, and war. Hope now brings us out of disease. This vial holds the serum that reverses the Power Stone Thysis. It will save Glacian and any other citizen infected. It will save our THRAN temple and our glorious city. It will save even the damned, give them the hope that will keep them from crawling up their rat ways and slaying us. A great ovation answered these words, and cheers of Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth punctuated the applause. And this vial? Yawgmoth pointed to his own skull. This vial contains the hope of a final cure. I will find it. I will find a cure not only to Power Stone Thysis but to every ailment that plagues us. I will find a cure not only for illness but also for weakness, for madness, for old age, for depravity, for every failing of mortal flesh. All of these diseases and dysfunctions are mere remnants of the darkness where once we dwelt. The medicine I bring to you will heal not only your bodies, minds, and souls but even your mortality. I promise you no less than that. His voice echoed away in shocked silence. No one had ever heard such promises, yet the light that gleamed down through that vial made it seem a miniature THRAN temple. Every hope of the people, every dream, was manifest in that vial and the man who held it aloft. He could cure the incurable. He could single-handedly end a riot, a war. It seemed he could do anything he strove to do. The people cheered. The sound of it swelled out to fill the hall, deafeningly, to fill the streets, the city, and even the deserts all around. Only Yawgmoth himself could quiet them. He reached out a hand, preparing to speak again. In the meantime, I will, by vial and sword, assure the safety of our city, our empire. As well as overseeing the creation of hope, I shall aid in the bolstering of fear, fear that will keep the Tedics below _fear of the THRAN army and Imperial Guard. They too shall return. I have been assigned by this council to serve on a committee to restructure the Guard and army. I will remove those generals who have never fought in true battle, elevate those young soldiers who have, and train all troops in the modern arts of war. Put simply, I will return our fighting forces to their previous splendor. If hope is not enough to keep the damned below, fear will keep them there. The ovation shook the foundations of the ancient hall. Now, good folk of Halcyon, I have made my promises to you, and I want each of you to hold me to them. As the newest member of the council, I will marshal forces both political and medical to realize our destiny. Just now, I must go. I have made another promise to another people in dire need of hope. I have promised to bring to the caves of the damned enough hope for every last one infected. I go now to do so. I descend among them that they will not ascend among you. The roar that followed was volcanic. Yawgmoth had awakened forces like those that had first thrust Halcyon heavenward. The scene was little different in the caves of the damned. Everyone knew Yawgmoth was coming. After decades and centuries beneath the earth, the untouchables had learned to reckon time in the pulses of their blood and the tides of underground seas. Every last occupant of the caves knew a week had passed and their salvation was due. Even those who lay in tangled rags, unable to move for the Thysis that threatened to drag them under, even they knew. They most of all. When a star shone in the heights of the main shaft, a cry of hope went up from the 100 souls packed in the gateway. The sound rolled down through the slanting passage beyond and into side caverns as it descended. At the base of the decline, the susurration slipped into the quarantine cave. Until that moment, it had been words: "He is coming. He is coming." Words failed. In the quarantine cave, the news became a wail, part laugh and part shriek. If Yawgmoth came at all, he would bring the cure. Soon in the main entry, the star swelled. It ringed the shaft in a golden crown, descending from unimaginable heights to a people dwelling in deep darkness. Children climbed the walls, eager to see fabled Yawgmoth. Health was said to flow from his very hands. Some rioters claimed to have touched his garment and been healed. Others told of his 8-foot-long sword, and his eyes that flashed lightning, and the way he would slay as soon as heal any who opposed him. He had an army, it was said privately trained and equipped hundreds of warriors fanatically loyal, who made the Halcite Guard seem washerwomen. Why not? Most of the citizens had cowered and fled before the rioters. Yawgmoth had not. He was unlike any other. How unlike was a matter that grew in words and minds with every telling. Jix did his best to calm the people. He insisted Yawgmoth was only a man, and a heartless man at that. Why would a heartless man bring a cure to the caves, they asked. Why would a heartless man willingly touch an untouchable? He was near now. The corona grew in literal leaps and bounds as the man at its center rappelled down the shaft. He seemed a giant, tall, garbed in voluminous robes, bearing an immense backpack. He's brought it. He's brought the serum. Make way. Give him room. Jix shouted, pushing folk back. The rope whined. With a final few bounds, Yawgmoth landed in their midst. He heaved a sigh. Untouchables drew in their breath with a collective gasp. They studied this man, tall, yes, but not 10 feet tall, powerful but taxed beneath the heavy pack he carried, commanding but not tyrannical. None of that mattered, only the contents of that pack. Jix approached Yawgmoth and stared up into his eyes. So you came. The silence around was deafening. Folk strained to hear what the man would say. I came, huffed Yawgmoth. We'll be putting a lift in that shaft soon enough. Using the rope, I could bring serum for only 1,000 of you. 1,000? Jix growled. That's less than half. We concentrated the formula as it was, and twice I nearly fell bringing it down. There isn't enough. Jix declared. His voice filled the passage with desperate echoes. I will return with more, as soon as this batch is administered. Yawgmoth assured. There will be enough. Everyone will be treated today. That too swept down the passage, a sigh instead of a hiss. To return yet today, I must get right to work. Take me to the quarantine cavern. Jix nodded. Others imitated the motion, turning acknowledgement into obeisance. Follow me, Jix said, grinding his teeth. Despite the hot press of people, the way opened before Jix and Yawgmoth. They strode down a narrow aisle of watchful souls. Most were content merely to gaze on him. Others reached out tentatively to touch him. Every once in a while, someone clung on. Those around violently pulled the offender back among the throng. As they went, Yawgmoth spoke to Jix and all the folk around. I know why you attacked the city. Yes, Jix replied levelly. We attacked for vengeance. We attacked because the city is poisoning us, and we wanted revenge. Yawgmoth smiled paternally. It's more than that, isn't it? You attacked Glacian before you knew the Monorig poisoned you. That wasn't revenge. What was it you said to Glacian when you stabbed him? I said, welcome to the company of the damned. Yes, Yawgmoth said. It is not that you hate the Halcites for their wealth and beauty, for the sunlight and glory of their city. You hate them because they have cut you away. They treat you like a gangrenous limb, sawing you from the healthy body and casting you down. There was nothing to say to that. Yawgmoth was right. Once these caves were part of Halcyon. Once they were a prison colony. The people here did not remain forever. They fell for a time from the skies and spent a while laboring in the darkness, only to rise again. That is why you attacked the Monorig and the city, to rise again. Yes, Jix muttered, mesmerized. All around, untouchables nodded in agreement. Yes, that's right. Well, I have come not only to heal you, Yawgmoth said. I have come to bring you up, one by one, into the light of day. I have come to bridge our two worlds. This place should not be a hell. It should be no less than a moral infirmary, meant to heal those who enter it and bring them out changed. The words had hypnotized the untouchables. Only Jix kept his head. Memories of this man's merciless knife were too vivid. You think you can come here and offer us life and hope and heaven? You think you are a god, Jix said in sudden realization. Those around him winced, as though stabbed by that accusation. Jix saw in their eyes that they began to awaken. I think we all are gods. I think every last one of us has a divine spark, a spark that should not be denied the light of the sun. Those waking multitudes fell again into blissful sleep. They arrived at the quarantine cave. Yawgmoth strode imperiously in, gazed around, and spotted a narrow and empty alcove. There. I will work there. Without pause, he marched into the niche and shrugged off his pack. He set his power stone lamp on a ledge and began unpacking the bladders, needles, and containers of serum. Jix lingered at the entry to the alcove. You have found a treatment. You come down here to provide it to us. Yes, we are grateful. We owe you thanks but not homage, not adoration. I know what you are trying to do. I know you are trying to steal the hearts of these people. Yawgmoth did not even look up from the parcels he unpacked. What god of theirs has offered them so much? If I can heal them, bring them up into the city, if I grant them life in heaven, they better damned well think me a god. Nostrils flaring, Jix said, you are the greatest devil in a city of devils. Yawgmoth looked up and pinned Jix with his gaze. When a devil is the only one who will deal with you, you must make a devil's deal. And you, Jix, you will make the greatest devil's deal of all. You will keep your mouth shut about me. You will say nothing but good about me. You will serve me faithfully, or you will receive no serum. I'd rather die speaking the truth than live a lie. We both know that is untrue. But there is no time for testing you again. If you do not serve me faithfully, I will deny serum to you and your people. We will rebel again. They will not follow you. You have no cure, only anger. You cannot do this. A voice came from behind Jix, the raspy voice of a young boy. May I have the cure now? May I, Master Jix? Jix turned to see a child whose face was half eaten away by lesions. A long, solemn line of others stretched away behind the child into the distant cavern. May he, Master Jix? Yawgmoth asked. Head drooping, Jix said, yes, child. Come in here. This is Yawgmoth. He is the man with the cure. Tell him how thankful you are that he has come.